Assalamu alaikum friends, I'm Atif Ali and today I'm going to deliver a lecture on the difference between romantic and classical poetry. Well, the difference between classical and romantic poetry is very important because in every major exam relating to literature, you will find this question frequently asked. As there are so many differences between classical and romantic poetry, I will only discuss the major differences. First of all, we need to clarify this idea that classical poets and classical writings belong to Greek or Greek literature or to Roman literature. Most of the people call the age of Dryden, Pope and Johnson as classical age. Well, this is not classical age, this is neoclassical. New means something new. So Dryden, Pope and Johnson and the poets of their era tried to bring back the classical writing, which means that they tried to bring back the rules of writing drama, poetry, which were used by the classical writers of Greek and Roman literature. If we talk about the difference between classical and romantic poetry, then we will come to know that classical poetry was the product of intelligence and was based on reason. It had no place for emotion and imagination. The style of writing was artificial and poets had objective approach to life, which means outward looking. Classical poetry was didactic and it had a moral to teach. If we discuss neoclassical age separately, then we will come to know that it was based on town life. If you read Pope's The Rape of the Lock, then you will find that Pope is making fun of the artificial life of townspeople. Romantic poetry actually originated when Coleridge and Wordsworth published literary ballads in 1798, but now critics believe that it actually has started when William Blake published Song of Innocence in 1789. Romantic poets give importance to emotions and imagination. They try to go back to pre-Christian time. Their poetry is based on rural life, and romantic poets like Wordsworth, Coleridge, Keats and Shelley and Byron have subjective approach to life, which means inward looking. Romantic poets try to bring back the romantic spirit and themes of Renaissance. Classical poets chose close couplet for their poetry. Romantic poets attack close couplet and encourage all sort of metrical experiment. We can find the love for naturalism in Wordsworth poetry and the love for supernaturalism in Coleridge poetry. One of the biggest differences is how neoclassical poets and romantic poets treat William Shakespeare. As literature students know that William Shakespeare is the greatest dramatist and poet of all times, but neoclassical poets found faults in his dramas. As Samuel Johnson has said that William Shakespeare has used too many words in his dramas and he rushed his endings. According to neoclassical poets, Ben Jonson was better than Shakespeare because he followed rules set by ancient Greek and Roman poets. But romantic poets treated Shakespeare like a god, like a deity. John Keats was so impressed by Shakespeare that in one of his letters to his brother, he remarked that he is so much fascinated by the negative capability of Shakespeare that it totally amazed him. This negative capability had enabled Shakespeare to create so many memorable characters. Next difference is how much importance neoclassical and romantic poets gave to criticism. Well, to neoclassical poets, criticism was as important as poetry. We can find Dryden writing essay on dramatic poesy and Pope writing essay on criticism, telling and instructing the minor poets to follow rules set by the masters. And how can we forget Samuel Johnson? Samuel Johnson was like that critic who served like a teacher. Poets wrote poetry and Johnson was there to check it like a teacher. But romantic poets gave no importance to criticism. We can find Lord Byron making fun of critics in his poems. That's all I have today. Thanks for watching this video.